Somebody had asked for an update on this build, and so I thought I would do a sort of an update, but I should explain, this isn't one of them projects that's going to be an instant gratification kind of thing for you, and I've got a timeline, but I'm looking really at years. I'm thinking 3, maybe even 4 years. Because it's not something, well, it's not something I had to do even, but it's not something I'm going to hurry through. This is one of them situations where it's more the journey than the destination. I'm not going to rush it and then think later that there was something I would have sooner done in a different way. You can tell a lot about people, well, by the books they read, music they listen to, that sort of thing, but also in the things that they actually make. So it really, you learn a lot about yourself, but it pays to take your time on something and do it the way you really want it done. I've never quite understood where people will, hire a contractor to build them a house and then have pride in that, thinking it was their house, and it really isn't. It's the contractor's house. He's the one you could tell something about. So like I say, I'm not in a hurry, and it's not the kind of thing, I got a lot of other stuff going on all the time, so I work on this when I want to work on it. What I'm doing now is making nails. Now, because there again, one of the things I like to do is to not use metal any more than I have to. Keep with, there's always a way to make a fastening without a nail, without a metal nail. But what these are for, like say where I ran those, I've got the pillars buried, and I ran the 2 long way beams, and they're coated with pine tar, which you can probably see. But there where they go onto the pillars on the corners, the pillars cut down 6 inches, there's a step there, and that's pegged from the top into that pillar. To keep it from wanting to shift this way. Now this next log sits on the upper part of the step, it'll be notched down, and then that'll be pegged on the upper part of the step. But that's where I need these long nails. And these I'm making out of oak. I like to make pegs out of ironwood, but I've got to be about 18 inches long, and it's hard to get a piece of ironwood 18 inches long. Plus the oak is kind of good in that it's got a spiral to it. So that works out. So this is what I'm splitting up for that. But I'll go into that more when I get to it. Because like I say, it's a bit of a journey, and you learn things along the way. But what I'm doing is kind of, there's a lot of, or quite a few of the original structures around here yet, from the first people that built here. And I've studied those buildings, believe me. And I'm kind of using the methods that they used because there's a good reason behind them. Because of the materials and stuff, so I'll go into that more too, though, when I get to that point. I've got some examples I can show you of how they were done. though there is some, if you go back into the History of My World series that I did a year or two ago, it shows some of them. But besides just nailing the corners with these pins and the, on the long way there's two other spots I got to nail in like this. But then between every layer of logs, you'll see you have one log, then you have another log. Now a method that they used is, in the first place, they would pin them. Every so often there would be a pin. Now these long pins going down are made to hold it from twisting, because buildings move, and you don't want, if it twists, it knocks the chinking out. So not only did they pin them, but as they went along, there would be like a 2-inch wooden block spacing the log apart. That was to keep it from flexing up and down. It's kind of interesting. Different places were done different methods, but most of the buildings around here were built, the original log buildings, by Scandinavians that worked logging in Minnesota in winter, and then in summer they'd come down here and build. So that method is seen very commonly in this area. But like I say, I'll show you examples of that. But that's what I'm trying to stay true to, that method, because there's good reasoning behind it. So I'll be making, well, hundreds of these pins, which is why I built the shaving horse, because I knew I was going to need it. It just makes life easier. And, there again, I've seen the same thing done with long lag bolts, and I've seen it done with rebar, drilled and then bang the rebar in. But that's not something I want to do. I want to do it with as little metal as possible. There'll be a situation where you're going to need nails, but most of the time you don't need nails. You could design around them. Because at the time these were built, nails were kind of a rare thing, kind of a luxury. But, like I say, it isn't going to be a quick thing. So don't look for the instant gratification. But I enjoy doing it. It's not something this is not something you'd want to make, hurry it, push yourself to do it. So that's not a smart move. Like I say, it's not like, you'd do that if you needed the shelter before winter came in, and sure, that could be done just using round logs, but I'm doing it the way they did when you were really making a house. But they worked in big crews. I'm not a crew, it's just me, but I like it. But I've got a 1-inch auger bit with an 18-inch extension. And that's what I use to bore through, because like on the side walls, you got to bore through all the way through one log down into the next log. So there's a lot of drilling involved, but that's where I use a 1/2-inch electric drill. And I got a couple of these big stumps to be banging these crap out of. But there's going to be a lot of waste, but there's uses for this too. But I thought that, because I'll be, this is one of them things I debated about even showing any of this. Because like I say, it's really a personal sort of thing. It's really not a YouTube kind of thing. So, the tendency was for me to just want to keep it to myself. But I will be spending a lot of time on it. And there again, for family members, I kind of like to keep them up on what's going on, but it ain't going to be a quick thing. But you can learn along the way. And I think that's the most important thing. You know, I always think about back when they used to build those like big cathedrals and stuff, where they knew it wouldn't be done for 200 or 300 years. You know, to start a project that you're never going to see completion. Well, I hope to see completion, but I mean that is a impressive idea. You know, the idea that you would start something that there's no way you're ever going to see it completed. But I figure I got time. But there again, you know, it is the journey as much as it is the destination. But I got nails to make.